The ship landed on the just as the twin suns began to set. Daniel Cole stood at the window and watched the alien city spread out below him. Towers of black glass reached toward the purple sky. Flying vehicles moved between them like silver birds. It was beautiful. It was also going to be his prison. He was 32 years old. He had spent 10 years training for this moment. Earth needed allies in the galaxy, and the Empire was powerful. They controlled 3 star systems. They had ships that could destroy planets. They had technology that humans could only dream about, and they had agreed to a marriage alliance with Earth. The catch was simple. They did not respect humans. They saw Earth as a small, weak world filled with primitive creatures. The marriage was not a real alliance. It was a symbol, a way for them to say they had connections to every species without giving anything valuable in return. Daniel understood all of this. He accepted it anyway. A guard came to escort him from the ship. They were tall, almost 7 feet, with skin the color of dark copper and eyes that glowed faint gold. They moved with grace that made humans look clumsy. This guard looked at Daniel the way someone might look at a stray animal. "The human will follow," the guard said, not a request, a command. Daniel followed. The palace was massive. Halls stretched so far that Daniel could not see their ends. Statues of ancient warriors lined the walls. Everything was designed to make visitors feel small. Daniel kept his face calm. He had been trained for this. Show nothing, feel nothing, survive. The throne room was filled with hundreds of nobles. They wore robes of silk and metal. Jewels hung from their necks and wrists. They turned to watch Daniel enter, and he heard the whispers begin. "So small. Look at those weak little eyes. Can it even understand our language?" Daniel understood every word. He had spent 3 years learning, but he kept his expression blank, as if he heard nothing. The emperor sat on a throne of carved crystal. He was old, his copper skin faded to bronze, but his golden eyes were still sharp. Beside him stood his children. 7 sons and 3 daughters, each one looking at Daniel with various degrees of disgust or amusement. "The human," the emperor said, his voice echoed through the hall. "Earth sends us a gift." Laughter rippled through the crowd. "Approach, human." Daniel walked forward. He stopped at the proper distance, exactly as protocol demanded. He bowed, not too deep, not too shallow. The court watched him with surprise. They had not expected him to know their customs. "I am Daniel Cole," he said in perfect. "I come to honor the alliance between Earth and the Empire. I thank the Emperor for this opportunity." More whispers. The Emperor leaned forward slightly. "You speak our language." "I do, Your Majesty." "Interesting," the Emperor gestured to his left. "This is my daughter, High Lady. She will be your wife." Daniel turned to look at his future bride. Was young by standards, perhaps the equivalent of 25 human years. She was beautiful in the alien way of her people, with sharp features and eyes that burned like small suns. She looked at Daniel with cold indifference. "The human is acceptable," said. Her voice was flat. "I will perform my duty." "Excellent," the Emperor said. "The wedding will be in 3 days. Until then, the human will be given quarters in the East Wing." The East Wing, Daniel knew, was where servants lived. Another insult. He accepted it with a small bow. As he was led away, he passed close to a group of aliens who were not. They were smaller, with scales instead of skin and eyes like black glass. Daniel recognized them from his briefings. They were rivals of the, always pushing at the borders of the Empire. One of them watched Daniel pass. Unlike this alien did not look at Daniel with contempt. Instead, there was something else in those dark eyes: curiosity, calculation. Daniel filed this away and kept walking. The next 3 days passed slowly. Daniel explored his small quarters, met the servants who would attend him, and prepared for the wedding. The servants were surprised by his politeness. They were not used to nobles, even foreign ones, treating them with respect. "You are strange for a human," one servant told him. Her name was, and she had served the palace for 40 years. "How so?" Daniel asked. "They say humans are loud and aggressive. You are quiet." Daniel smiled. "Perhaps they do not know us as well as they think." The wedding ceremony was held in the great temple. Thousands attended. Daniel wore the traditional robes of a groom, modified to fit his smaller human body. He spoke the vows in perfect. He performed every ritual exactly as required. Stood beside him, beautiful and cold as ice. When the ceremony required them to hold hands, her touch was stiff. When they exchanged the ceremonial kiss, her lips barely brushed his cheek. The crowd applauded politely. The emperor nodded with satisfaction. Another alliance secured, another symbol of dominance. At the feast afterward, Daniel sat beside his new wife and ate food that was too spicy and drank wine that was too strong. Nobles approached to offer congratulations that were really insults wrapped in pretty words. How wonderful that Earth found someone willing to sacrifice himself. Such a brave little human, coming so far from home. Perhaps he will learn to be almost civilized in time. Daniel smiled at each one. He thanked them for their kind words. He showed nothing of what he felt inside. Late in the evening, the observer approached. He bowed to first, then turned to Daniel. "I am ambassador," they said. "I offer congratulations to the human groom." "Thank you, ambassador," Daniel replied. Studied Daniel for a long moment. "You are not what I expected." "What did you expect?" "Fear, anger, desperation." The black eyes glittered. "Instead, I see patience. I wonder what you are waiting for." Daniel kept his smile pleasant. "I am simply honored to be here." "Of course," bowed again and walked away. Glanced at Daniel. For just a moment, something flickered in her golden eyes. Not warmth, but perhaps the smallest hint of interest. "They are dangerous," she said quietly. "They see things others miss." "I will remember that," Daniel said. That night in their shared quarters pointed to a small room attached to the main bedroom. "You will sleep there. We will maintain the appearance of a marriage, nothing more." "I understand," Daniel said. She paused at the door. "You handled the court well today, better than I expected." "Thank you." "Do not mistake that for a compliment. It simply means you are less embarrassing than I feared." She closed the door between them. Daniel sat alone in his small room. Through the window, he could see the alien stars of a sky that was not his own. He was far from home. He was surrounded by people who despised him. He was married to a woman who saw him as a burden. But he was exactly where he needed to be. Daniel Cole learned the rhythms of the palace the way water learns the shape of a river. He woke early. He attended functions. He stood beside his wife at ceremonies. He smiled at insults. He bowed to those who mocked him. And slowly, so slowly that no one noticed, he built his web. The servants talked to him now. The old servant woman brought him tea each morning and told him palace gossip. The kitchen staff saved him food that was less painful for human taste. The guards nodded when he passed. Small things, invisible things, but Daniel collected them all. He learned which nobles were loyal to the emperor and which ones whispered against him. He learned which trade routes brought wealth to which families. He learned the secret passages that ran through the palace walls. He learned everything, and he told no one. Remained cold, but the ice had thinned over the years. She no longer looked through him as if he was not there. Sometimes she asked his opinion on small matters. Sometimes she even listened to his answers. "The Trade Council is split on the new tariffs," she told him one evening. They sat in their shared quarters, a careful distance between them. "Half want to increase taxes on foreign goods, half want to lower them." "What do you want?" Daniel asked. Looked surprised. No one had asked her that before. In politics, women of the royal family were symbols, not decision-makers. "I think the tariffs should stay the same," she said slowly. "Change either way will upset someone, better to keep balance." "That is wise." "You think so?" "I do," Daniel met her golden eyes. "You understand that stability has value, many people do not." Was quiet for a moment. "You are strange human." "So I have been told." The smallest smile touched her lips. It was gone in an instant, but Daniel saw it. "Progress." The emperor grew weaker with each passing month. His skin had faded from bronze to gray. He coughed during speeches. He needed help to climb the stairs to his throne. The court pretended not to notice, but everyone was preparing for what came next. The succession was complicated. The emperor had 7 sons, and each one believed he deserved the crown. They formed alliances, made deals, and plotted against each other. None of them paid attention to their youngest sister or her human husband. This suited Daniel perfectly. But there was one person in the palace who did not ignore Daniel. Prince Wisnephew, the son of her oldest brother. He was 8 years old, with curious eyes and endless questions. By law, he was third in line for the throne after his father and uncle. "Why are humans so small?" asked one day. He had found Daniel in the garden and followed him around like a small shadow. "We come from a heavy world," Daniel explained. "Gravity pulls harder on Earth. It made us compact." "What is gravity?" Daniel picked up a stone and dropped it, the force that makes things fall. Watched with fascination. "Earth sounds interesting." "It is. We have blue skies and green forests and oceans so big you cannot see the other side." "Will you tell me more?" "If you want." From that day forward became Daniel's unofficial student. Daniel taught him Earth games like chess and checkers. He told him stories about human history, about explorers and scientists and ordinary people who did extraordinary things. Listened to everything with wide eyes. Found them one afternoon, sitting in the garden while Daniel explained how humans had first reached space. "You are filling his head with human nonsense," she said, but her voice was not angry. He asked questions, I answered them. "Uncle Daniel tells the best stories," said. "Did you know humans walked on their moon before they even had faster-than-light travel? They used rockets. Rockets ant like fireworks." Looked at Daniel with new eyes. "Is this true?" "It is." "That is," she searched for the right word, "unexpected." Daniel smiled. "Humans are stubborn. When we want something, we find a way." Something changed after that. Began to seek Daniel's company more often. She asked about Earth, about human customs, about his life before the marriage. Daniel answered carefully, sharing enough to build trust while hiding everything that mattered. But even as his relationship with improved, Daniel watched darker things gather on the horizon. They were growing bolder. Their ships crossed into space more frequently. Their ambassador attended more palace functions. And sometimes, late at night, Daniel saw nobles meeting with representatives in shadowed corners. He reported everything to Earth through encrypted channels hidden in routine trade communications. He requested resources, personnel, and ships positioned in nearby systems. Earth responded slowly but steadily. They trusted Daniel's judgment. They knew he would not ask unless it was necessary. One evening came to Daniel with fear in her eyes. It was the first time he had ever seen her afraid. "My father is dying," she said quietly. "The physicians say he has perhaps 6 months, maybe less." "I am sorry." "That is not why I am afraid." She sat down heavily. "When he dies, my brothers will fight for the throne. There will be blood. There always is during succession." "What about?" His golden eyes filled with pain. "He is too close to the throne. If the wrong brother wins, will be seen as a threat. They will find a way to remove him." "Remove him," Daniel repeated. The words tasted like poison. "It has happened before, young princes who stood in the way of ambitious uncles, accidents, illnesses, disappearances." His voice broke. "He is just a child." Daniel felt something stir inside him, something he had kept buried for 5 years. He pushed it down. "I will not let that happen," he said. Looked at him with confusion. "What can you do? You are just a human." "Yes," Daniel met her eyes. "But I am also your husband, is my nephew too, and humans protect their family." "Daniel, trust me." She stared at him for a long moment. Then, for the first time since their wedding, she reached out and touched his hand. "I do not understand you," she whispered, "but I want to." That night, after had gone to sleep, Daniel went to his hidden communication device. He typed a message to Earth with steady fingers. "Situation escalating. Infiltration deeper than expected. Royal family at risk, requesting authorization for active measures." The response came within hours. "Authorization granted. Protect Earth's interests, protect the Alliance, whatever it takes." Daniel read the message twice, then he deleted it. He walked to the window and looked out at the alien stars. Somewhere out there, they were planning something. He could feel it the way a sailor feels a coming storm. War was coming. Blood would be spilled. The festival of stellar convergence was the most sacred night in the calendar. Every 100 years, the twin suns aligned with the 3 moons, and the sky turned the color of fire. The entire empire celebrated. The palace opened its doors to thousands of guests. Music filled the halls. Wine flowed like water. It was the perfect night for an assassination. Daniel knew something was wrong the moment he intercepted the communication. He had been monitoring their frequencies for months, picking up fragments of coded messages. Most were routine. This one was not. "Convergence confirmed. All units in position. The old tree falls at midnight, clear the forest after. Old tree, the emperor. Clear the forest, the rest of the royal family. Daniel found in her chambers, preparing for the festival. She wore a gown of silver and gold that made her look like a goddess. "We need to talk," Daniel said. His voice was calm but urgent. "Can it wait? The ceremony begins in 2 hours." "No," he closed the door behind him. "They are going to kill your father tonight, and then they are going to kill everyone else in the royal line." Stared at him. "What are you talking about?" "I intercepted their communications. They have infiltrators in the palace. The attack will happen at midnight." "That is impossible. Our security would have detected." "Your security has been compromised. Some of your guards are working with some of your nobles, too." Shook her head. "How would you know this? You are just a diplomat. You have no access to military intelligence." Daniel took a breath. This was the moment he had avoided for 5 years, but there was no more time for secrets. "I am not just a diplomat," he said. "I was sent here to watch, to learn, and to protect Earth's interests. I have skills that I have kept hidden. I have resources that no one knows about. And right now, I am the only person who can save your family." His golden eyes widened. "You lied to me all these years." "Yes, and I am sorry. But right now, none of that matters. What matters is that is in danger. Your father is in danger. You are in danger. We need to warn the Emperor." Something in Daniel's voice reached her. The fear, the urgency, the truth. "Come with me," she said. They rushed through the palace corridors toward the Emperor's chambers. But the palace was crowded with festival guests, and progress was slow. By the time they reached the royal wing, the guards stopped them. "The Emperor is preparing for the ceremony," a guard said. "He cannot be disturbed." "This is urgent," insisted. "There is a threat against his life." The guard looked uncomfortable. "I have orders, no one enters." Daniel felt the clock ticking in his mind. They were running out of time. "Please," said, "I am his daughter, you know me." The guard hesitated. Then another guard stepped forward, one Daniel did not recognize. His hand moved toward his weapon. "The lady should return to her quarters," the new guard said, "for her own safety." Daniel saw the truth in the guard's eyes. This one belonged to the... Daniel said quietly, "Take 3 steps to your left." "What? Now?" She moved. Daniel moved faster. The agent drew his weapon. Daniel was already there. He grabbed the guard's wrist, twisted, and the weapon clattered to the floor. A strike to the throat silenced the guard. A second strike dropped him. The loyal guard stared in shock. "How did you?" "There is no time to explain." Daniel picked up the fallen weapon. "The palace is full of traitors. Sound the alarm. Get the Emperor to safety. Do it now." The guard ran. Daniel took his hand. "We need to find." They ran through corridors that were becoming chaotic. The alarm had begun to sound. Guards were shouting. Guests were screaming. And underneath it all, Daniel heard the sound of weapons fire. They had begun their attack early. Someone had warned them. They found in the children's wing, hiding under his bed with 2 of his cousins. His eyes were wide with terror. "Uncle Daniel," he whispered, "there are monsters in the palace." "I know," Daniel knelt beside him, "but I am going to protect you, I promise." "How? You are just a human." Daniel smiled. It was not the gentle smile he had worn for 5 years. This smile was something else, something older, something dangerous. "Let me show you what humans can do." He led them through the servant passages he had mapped over the years. Twice they encountered soldiers. Twice Daniel dealt with them before they could raise the alarm. Watched him with a mixture of shock and something that might have been awe. "Where did you learn to fight like this?" she asked. "Earth trains its people well." "You were never really a diplomat, were you?" I am, but I am also other things." They reached a secure chamber deep in the palace. Daniel had prepared this room years ago, hiding supplies and weapons behind a false wall. He sealed the door and activated the security systems. "You will be safe here," he said. "Stay hidden until I return." Grabbed his arm. "Where are you going?" "To find your father, to stop this." "You will die. There are hundreds of them." Daniel looked at her. In his eyes, she saw something she had never seen before. Not anger, not fear, something deeper. Something that had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. "Maybe," he said, "but I will take a lot of them with me." He turned to leave. His voice stopped him. Daniel, he looked back. Come back to me, please. I will try. He sealed the door behind him and walked into hell. The palace was a war zone. Bodies lay in the corridors. Fires burned in the great halls. The beautiful towers of black glass cracked and crumbled under weapons' fire. They were everywhere, killing anyone they found. Daniel moved like a shadow. The skills he had hidden for 5 years came back like breathing. He had been trained by Earth's best, enhanced with modifications that made him faster, stronger, harder to kill. He was a weapon that had chosen to be a diplomat. Now the weapon was awake. He found the Emperor in the throne room, surrounded by the bodies of his guards. The old man was still alive, but barely. A commander stood over him, weapon raised. The Empire ends tonight, the commander said. Your children are dead, your legacy is ash, and no one will save you. I would not be so sure, Daniel said. The commander turned. He saw a small human standing in the doorway, blood on his clothes and fire in his eyes. A human, the commander laughed. What can a human do against me? Daniel walked forward. You hurt my family, you threatened my wife, you frightened my nephew. So now I am going to kill you. The commander attacked. He was fast, trained, deadly. He had killed dozens of tonight. Daniel killed him in 6 seconds. The commander's body hit the floor. Daniel stood over him, breathing hard. Then he turned to the Emperor. Your Majesty, we need to move. The Emperor stared at him with dying eyes. You, the human. Yes, the human. Daniel lifted the old man carefully. Let us get you somewhere safe. As he carried the Emperor through the burning palace, Daniel felt something change inside him. For 5 years he had been patient. He had been calm. He had been cold. Now he felt rage, pure and perfect and terrible. The had started this war, but Daniel Cole was going to finish it. And God help anyone who stood in his way. The old man's last words were a blessing for his daughter and a curse against his enemies. Then his golden eyes went dark, and the empire lost its ruler. Daniel laid him down gently. There would be time to mourn later. Now there was only survival. He moved through the palace with purpose. The servants he had befriended over 5 years found him in the shadows. They brought him information. They had taken the eastern wing. 3 of the emperor's sons were dead. 2 more were missing. The remaining nobles had scattered like frightened birds. What do we do? Asked. The old servant woman was terrified but steady. She had survived 2 succession wars. She would survive this. Gather everyone you trust, Daniel said. Servants, guards, anyone who will fight, bring them to the central courtyard in 20 minutes. What will you do? I am going to give them something to think about. He found the armory on the lower level. The guards there were dead, but they had not yet broken through the vault doors. Daniel entered a code he had stolen 3 years ago. The doors opened. Inside were weapons designed for warriors. Most were too large for human hands, but Daniel found what he needed. A pair of ceremonial blades, lighter than standard weapons. A plasma pistol small enough for a human to fire. And armor, beautiful silver armor meant for a prince who had died 200 years ago. It fit him perfectly. Daniel emerged from the armory transformed. He no longer looked like a quiet diplomat. He looked like war given human form. The first squad found him in the north corridor. There were 6 of them, heavily armed, confident in their victory. They died confused. Daniel's blades moved in patterns they had never seen. Human patterns, fast and unpredictable, nothing like the formal styles. He did not fight like a warrior. He fought like a survivor, like someone who had clawed his way up from the darkness and refused to go back. More came, more fell. The survivors began to radio warnings. A human was killing their soldiers. A single human, dressed in silver armor, moving through the palace like a ghost. Their commanders laughed at the reports. Then the commanders died too. Daniel reached the central courtyard at the appointed time. Had done her work well. Nearly 200 people waited there. Servants, guards, minor nobles, even some of the kitchen staff. They looked at Daniel with fear and confusion. I know you do not know me, Daniel said, his voice carried across the courtyard. For 5 years I have been the human, the outsider, the joke that married into the royal family, but tonight everything changes. He pointed to the burning towers above them. They think they have won. They think they can kill your emperor, slaughter your princes, and break your empire. They think they are finished. He let the silence stretch. They are wronged. A murmur ran through the crowd. The emperor is dead. Most of the princes are dead, but High Lady lives, Prince lives. The royal line is not broken, and I will protect what remains with my last breath. One of the guards stepped forward. You are human, why would you fight for us? Because is my wife, because is my nephew, because this palace is my home. Daniel met the guard's eyes, and because humans do not abandon their family. Another silence, then spoke up. I have watched this man for 5 years. He learned our language. He learned our customs. He treated us with respect when nobles treated us like dirt. If he says he will fight for us, I believe him. Others nodded. Then more, slowly the fear in their eyes began to change. Hope, desperate hope, but hope nonetheless. What do you need us to do? The guard asked. Daniel smiled. It was not a kind smile. Follow me. He organized them quickly. The guards formed a defensive perimeter. The servants became scouts, using their knowledge of secret passages to track enemy movements. The nobles who could fight were given weapons. Those who could not were sent to protect the women and children. Then Daniel began to take back the palace. It was not a battle, it was a hunt. Daniel knew every corridor, every hidden room, every weakness in the palace defenses. He had spent 5 years learning. Now he used that knowledge to destroy the piece by piece. He led ambushes that wiped out enemy squads. He set traps that collapsed tunnels on advancing forces. He turned the palace into a maze of death, and they were lost in it. Word spread among the survivors. The human was fighting, the human was winning, and wherever the human went, the fell. Heard the reports from the secure room where she hid with. She listened to descriptions of a silver warrior who killed with impossible speed. A human who fought like a demon. Her husband, the quiet man who had smiled at insults for 5 years. Aunt whispered, Is Uncle Daniel going to save us? Yes, she said, and for the first time she believed it. Daniel found the High Commander in the throne room. The alien stood where the Emperor had died, surrounded by his elite guards. He was tall even for a with scales that shimmered like black oil. The human hero, the commander said, You have cost me many soldiers tonight. I am just getting started. The commander laughed. You are one creature, I have an army, soon a full invasion fleet will arrive. You have won nothing. Maybe, Daniel raised his blades, but I have killed you, that is enough for tonight. The commander gestured and his guards attacked. There were 12 of them, the best fighters they had to offer. Daniel became a blur of silver and blood. He moved between them like water, his blades finding gaps in armor, his body twisting away from strikes that should have killed him. He was not stronger than them. He was not faster than them. But he was smarter, and he was angrier, and he wanted it more. One by one, the guards fell. The commander stared at the bodies of his elite soldiers. For the first time, fear flickered in his dark eyes. What are you? He whispered. Daniel stood among the fallen, blood dripping from his blades. I am a husband whose wife was threatened. I am an uncle whose nephew was frightened. I am a human from a world of predators and prey, where we learned long ago that the most dangerous thing in the universe is not the strongest creature. It is the one that will not stop. He walked toward the commander. You should have left my family alone. The commander fought. He was skilled, brutal, desperate. But Daniel had spent 5 years watching, learning, waiting. He knew every fighting style. He knew every weakness. The commander died looking into the eyes of a human who had finally stopped pretending. Daniel stood alone in the throne room. His armor was dented. His blades were dull. His body screamed with exhaustion, but he was alive. Then his communication device buzzed. Daniel, a human voice, Earth command. We have intercepted fleet communications. A full invasion force is 6 hours away, 200 ships. Daniel closed his eyes. The night was not over. Understood, he said. What about our fleet? 8 hours out, we cannot reach you in time. Daniel looked out the shattered windows at the burning city below. Daniel gathered every surviving leader in the palace war room. Generals, noble lords, merchant captains, even some of the servants who had proven themselves in the night's fighting. They looked at him with exhaustion and despair. 200 ships, General said. He was the highest-ranking military officer left alive. We have perhaps 40 vessels capable of combat. This is not a battle. This is an execution. Then we changed the terms, Daniel said. He pulled up a holographic map of the star system. They expect to find a broken world. They expect survivors hiding in bunkers, waiting to die. We are going to give them something different. What? A fight? He laid out his plan. The ships would not engage the fleet directly. Instead, they would harass, delay, and distract, hit and run attacks, minefields, decoy signals, anything to slow the advance. That will buy us hours, not victory, protested. Hours are what we need, Daniel pointed to the map. Earth's fleet is coming, 8 hours away. If we can hold them for 2 hours after they arrive in orbit, our reinforcements will catch them from behind. You want us to sacrifice ourselves for human ships. I want us to survive. Daniel met the general's eyes. I know you do not trust me. I know you think I am just a human who got lucky tonight, but I am also the only person in this room who has fought thee and won. So you can follow my plan or you can wait here and die. Your choice. The silence stretched, then General nodded slowly. What do you need us to do? Daniel told them. The next 6 hours were a blur of preparation. Ships were repositioned, defenses were strengthened. The civilian population was moved to underground shelters. Daniel did not sleep. He could not sleep. There was too much to do. Found him on a balcony overlooking the city. The fires had mostly burned out, but smoke still rose from the ruins. She stood beside him without speaking. You should be in the shelter, Daniel said. So should you. I have work to do. So do I, she turned to face him. I am the only surviving child of the Emperor. When this is over, I will be Empress. My people need to see me standing beside the man who saved us. Daniel shook his head. I have not saved anyone yet. You will. You sound very sure. Took his hand. Her fingers were warm against his skin. I watched you for 5 years. I thought I knew who you were. A quiet man, a patient man, a man who accepted insults because he had no choice. I did have a choice. I know that now, she squeezed his hand. You chose to wait, you chose to prepare, you chose to be underestimated because it served your purpose. Everything you did was deliberate. Not everything, Daniel looked at her. I did not plan to care about you. I did not plan to love like my own family. That just happened. Is that why you are doing this, for us? Partly Earth needs this alliance. My people need the Empire to survive. But yes, he touched her face gently. Mostly for you, mostly because somewhere in the last 5 years this stopped being a mission and became my home. Leaned into his touch. When this is over, our marriage will not be an arrangement anymore. No, it will be a choice, my choice. She smiled, and it was like watching a sunrise. I choose you, Daniel Cole, human, warrior, husband. Before he could respond, the alarms began to wail. The fleet had arrived. Daniel took his place in the command center. Around him, officers worked frantically at their stations. On the main screen, 200 enemy ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. They spread across the sky like a plague of metal locusts. All units begin harassment pattern Alpha, Daniel ordered. The ships launched. They were outnumbered 5-1, but they were not trying to win. They were trying to delay. They struck at the edges of the formation, firing and retreating before the enemy could respond. Mines detonated against hulls. Decoy signals led enemy squadrons on wild chases. The admiral responded with overwhelming force. He sent destroyers to hunt the ships. He pushed his fleet forward, eager to begin the bombardment. But every attack, every response, every adjustment cost time. Minutes became hours. Daniel watched the clock, 2 hours until Earth's fleet arrived, then 1 hour, then 30 minutes. They are breaking through our outer defenses, General reported. They will be in bombardment range in 10 minutes. Hold them as long as you can. We are trying, we have lost half our ships. Daniel closed his eyes. So many dead, so many sacrificed to buy time for hope. Then a new voice crackled over the communication system. Command, this is Admiral of the Earth Alliance Fleet. Sorry we're late, traffic was terrible. Daniel laughed, he could not help it. On the main screen, 30 Earth warships emerged from faster-than-light travel directly behind the formation. They were smaller than vessels, but armed with weapons the galaxy had never seen. Humanity had spent centuries fighting itself. They had gotten very good at war. All Earth ships engage, Admiral ordered. Let's show these lizards what happens when you mess with our people. The battle turned. They found themselves trapped between the surviving ships and the fresh Earth fleet. Their formation collapsed. Their coordination broke down. Ships that had been hunting destroyers suddenly became prey. Daniel watched the enemy fleet crumble. He should have felt triumph. Instead, he felt tired, so very tired. "The flagship is attempting to retreat," an officer reported. "No," Daniel stood. "They do not get to run, not after what they did." He commandeered a shuttle and flew to the flagship himself. The ship's defenses were down, its crew in chaos. Daniel moved through the corridors like death itself, cutting down anyone who stood in his way. He found the admiral on the bridge, surrounded by his last bodyguards. "You have lost," Daniel said. "Your fleet is destroyed, your invasion has failed, you can surrender or you can die." The admiral stared at him. One human did all this. One human started it, a lot of people finished it. Daniel raised his blade. "Make your choice." The admiral looked at his broken fleet, at his dead soldiers, at the human who had destroyed everything. "I surrender," he said. Daniel lowered his blade. Smart. 2 days later, Daniel stood in the great hall of the palace. It had been rebuilt enough to hold a ceremony. Sat on the throne, newly crowned empress of the, stood beside her, young but strong, the future of his people. The hall was filled with nobles, Earth diplomats, and representatives from a dozen other species. They had all come to witness history. "Daniel Cole," announced, her voice echoed through the hall. "You saved our empire, you defeated our enemies, you earned glory that warriors dream of." She paused. "What reward do you ask?" The crowd waited. Some expected him to demand land or titles. Others thought he might ask for power, for a position in the new government. He had earned anything he wanted. Daniel looked then at the faces of servants and guards who had fought beside him, people who had trusted him when they had no reason to. "I ask for nothing," he said. "I have everything I need, a wife I love, a nephew I would die for, a home I helped save. I did not fight for rewards, I fought because this is my family, and humans protect their family." Silence filled the hall, then broke free from his handlers and ran to Daniel, throwing his arms around the human's legs. "I knew you would save us," the boy whispered. "I knew it." Daniel knelt and hugged him back. "I promised, didn't I?" Descended from the throne, she walked to Daniel and took his hand, raising him to his feet. Then, before the entire court, she kissed him. The nobles gasped. An empress did not show such affection in public. It was not done. "Did not care. This human is my husband," she declared. "He is the protector of my empire. He is the father we'll look up to, and anyone who insults him insults me." She looked around the hall with fire in her eyes. "Is that understood?" Nobody argued. That night, Daniel stood on the balcony of the royal chambers. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. Stood beside him, her hand in his. "The galaxy will remember this," she said. "They will remember what one human did. I hope they remember the right lesson." "What lesson is that?" Daniel looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, other species were watching. Other empires were calculating. They had seen what humanity could do when threatened. "Do not mistake kindness for weakness," he said. "Do not mistake patience for surrender, and never ever threaten what a human loves." He smiled. "We are a species that crawled out of darkness. We survived ice ages and plagues and wars. We reached for the stars when we had no right to succeed, and we never ever learned how to give up." Leaned against him. "They called you a god of vengeance." "They gave me too much credit. I am just a man who loves his family." "That is what makes you terrifying," she kissed his cheek. "And that is what makes you mine." Daniel held his wife as the sun set on a world he had saved. Behind him, slept peacefully for the first time in days. Around him, an empire began to heal. He had come here as a sacrifice, a symbol of humanity's weakness, a joke that no one took seriously. He would leave as something else entirely. A husband and uncle, a protector. And yes, when necessary, a god of vengeance. But mostly he was just Daniel Cole, human, and that was more than enough. 6 hours to hold a planet, 6 hours against 200 ships, 6 hours before his people arrived. Impossible odds. He smiled, and when it happened, Daniel Cole would be ready. He had played the weak, harmless human for 5 years. He had smiled at insults and bowed to mockery. He had let them all underestimate him. But every day in secret he had trained. Every day he had prepared. Every day he had grown stronger. The thought he was nothing, the thought he was irrelevant. They were all about to learn how wrong they were. Earth had sent him here for a reason. He had a mission, though no one in this palace would ever suspect it. He was not here to be a symbol. He was here to watch, to learn, and to wait. The thought they understood humans. They thought they knew what weakness looked like. They were wrong. Daniel Cole closed his eyes and began to plan.